What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 9 of Gatekeeper Media's In the Mix with Parked Podcast. This week, the Disc Golf Pro Tour is in Clearwater, Minnesota for the Preserve Championship. What a beautiful property. We're going to get into it, break it all down as we get through this night. My name is Mitch Phillips. Joining me is my good friend and co-host, Mr. Zach Harrison. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing blessed, my man. Doing blessed.
Doing blessed. Just like Bradley Williams, just riding that wave, being pulled through this. You're going to get pulled through the podcast, just like Bradley was pulled through to his first win in quick maths, 8 years. So it's 6 years. 6 years?
Six is it.
I've done a lot of math this week, man. But what you been up to, man? How's your week been going?
It's been good. Been busy. A lot of prep for the holiday. Had a celebration last weekend, but more celebrating to do for 4th of July. Got to blow some stuff up and eat too much. So,
and that's not different than any of your normal weeks. So, it is what it is. Oh man, dude, I've been working towards getting my real estate license, which has been insanely difficult, the amount of studying and stuff. So I'm, as of today, I'm licensed in the state of Georgia. So that feels freaking awesome to be able to be done. The weight is lifted.
Congrats, man.
Thanks, buddy. It's been awesome to be able to do. So good to carry on the family business and get after it. So, got to spend some time today around the putting green, which was fun. I took every single putter that I have, which I have, some of them I have not used in 10 years.
Wow.
Just recently moved, so everything was out of some boxes, and just threw a bunch of putts, which was really funny because some of those discs that I would never putt with now, just the different styles and stuff. So it was a lot of fun. Been the first time I've done that in a while, so it felt good just get back out and get some putting in. So
yeah, man, putting wins championships.
It does. It definitely does. Speaking of championships, we're at the Preserve Championship this week. As I said, Clearwater, Minnesota. Dude, talk to us about this beautiful property, over 100 acres. It's just incredible.
Yeah, Kale's house, as they call it. Kale LaVisca, the creator of the actual tournament and the course that we're playing on. It's right along the shores of the Mississippi River. So absolutely beautiful. Lots of different water that gets to come into play during the tournament. Some tall grass, some short grass. Honestly, lots of wind. What we see when we're on the river, on the coastline, anything along those lines, we get the wind brushing in usually throughout the whole weekend, which this was no exception to that rule. Good bit of Mandos, some natural OBs, like I mentioned, with the water and the grasses that they have there. Lots of different shot shapes that we're going to have to see out of the players. Forehand dominant players had a good time because they were able to take some advantage without throwing big turnovers. But it takes a lot of control, takes a lot of distance, and overall you have to be accurate. You'll see when we go through, the fairway hits were a big part of this weekend and who was able to score well.
Yeah, being able to climb the leaderboard, I think that's true in any course, but on a place like this where Kale's really every year has made this better and better with the intention and knowledge that this is going to be a mainstay on the Disc Golf Pro Tour schedule. Yeah. And I think it just fits such a great medium of, like you said, there were some holes where forehand players are able to have an advantage because it was a low ceiling on the left side intentionally, so the Anheuser backhand may have some difficulty. There's gaps that were hit way further down on some par fives. I personally love the design. You and I were talking before you hit record on this thing today and saying, this is one of my favorite courses on the tour, if not in the country. I mean, for me, Green Mountain Championships and Smuggler's Notch is still up there. Just those two courses together is just perfection. But this is up there, and it's consistently getting better and more just specific and intentional to the top players in the world. But talk about what James Conrad mentioned, that this is such a scoreable course. It's such a funny quote.
Yeah. So they were talking about talking to James about the course, and he said it reminds him of bowling because the goal is to get as perfect as possible. As close to perfect as possible is going to win. And he's not wrong. I mean, when we look back at the scorecards, the guys who have the most blue and the least red, I mean, that's true for everything, but there's a lot of blue out here on these scorecards, tons and tons of scores, lots of eagles, lots of exciting shots. Yeah, it was great. So
I guess in Joma's terms, blues are eagles, but it's definitely cool to see a course that's, I mean, like you said, every course has that, but this one specifically, I think it's designed in a way where that's available. Like there's some courses where you have that one hole where it's like, look, everyone's going to birdie it, or you have the hole where it's like everyone's going to bogey this par, maybe be a little off. And this course just feels really true. But like you said, I cannot say enough about the property and just what this place has and the special things that it does. And it just produces highlight reels.
Yeah,
like
sure
we'll get into it. The amount of throw-ins, blind throw-ins, I mean, open one, it was insane. So much to unpack here. But a lot of people in attendance too, 1,300 plus people over the weekend. And that wasn't just for, lead card, final round for MPO. There was 1,300 people there as the gates opened, ready to get after it for FPO as well. So just really cool. The Minnesota local clubs and everything just so hyped to be able to have Preserve Championship. So and the 2 sets of bleachers on 18, just such a cool thing, so iconic to have on that. But let's talk about the weather. You mentioned wind. Break it down for us.
Yeah, so a little bit warmer and pretty windy from what the players have been going through on the West Coast. Pretty consistent. It was actually interesting. Cale was hoping that there would be wind.
Yeah,
he said he wanted the wind to come into the property, which was cool. I think he knew that it was going to make the play a little more exciting. Right. But round 1 and round 2, both pretty windy. The big difference there, though, was that the wind switched directions. Mm-hmm. So day 1, it was going one direction. Day 2, 180 degrees switch the opposite direction. So the players had to completely rethink a lot of the shots, what they were throwing off the tee. And then at round 3, similar wind level, actually a little bit colder as the day went on. You saw some players throw on some jackets, just try to keep themselves nice and loose. But definitely overall, huge factor as far as landing zones are concerned. We saw a lot of players try to approach the green and not quite hit the spots that they wanted, and it ended up costing them big time down the road.
Yeah, some of those par 3s, and I mean, I forget exactly which hole. I think it's 10 that has across it. That's kind of the island green with the big wall and everything. I believe it's 10 or 11, right around there. But holes like that, where like you said, one day it's a headwind, next day it's a tailwind. Well, guess what? First day your shot's getting pushed down, and then second day your shot's getting pulled up. So and then you have OB behind, and even on some of the par 4s on the back 9 that have these big greens that are slightly angled for the entire way, and on camera looks like a simplistic hole, but guess what, it drops off by a ton behind that. So where you were trying to I need to just be on the edge to kind of give myself a safe putt, well, now you're going down the hill. So this course specifically, and in courses that have such elevation, that wind plays so much. And in my opinion, because of where World Championships are this year, being in Emporia, the more wind that you can get used to, the better.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Players have to adapt.
Oh, yeah. As we move into the rest of this podcast, let's talk about my favorite segment, running it back with Idio Sports. We're going to go for a little run, get some jogging in. If you're over on YouTube, Zach's making sure no one's chasing him behind him. We're getting after it. But, man, that's not a great bit. Anyway, we our good friend over at Idio Sports. Head over to idiosports.com to be able to get your pair of disc golf history. At the end of the segment, we'll talk about an incredibly exciting update getting closer and closer. But talk about running it back to 2016. Zach, take us there.
Yeah, 2016, on the actual day of the third round of this tournament, June 26th, 2016, this was the first ever Disc Golf Pro Tour event. Yeah. It was the Vibram Open. Really cool event.
A moment for Vibram not here with us anymore.
They're trying to make a comeback.
They are. They're trying to come back. But
they just know how big it is.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the crazy thing about this was that the winners for the first ever Disc Golf Pro Tour event were Paige Pierce and Bradley Williams. Are we in a twilight zone? Is this
every
a parallel
6 years?
universe?
What we need to do is in 2028 on June 26th, if those two win again, we're out. We're out.
If you haven't seen the Netflix show Dark, you have to watch it. Every 6 years, it likes to repeat itself. I don't know. We may be in the loop.
We might be. That's insane. But especially, the history of just, even if it wouldn't have happened, the fact that we had a tournament on the first Disc Golf Pro Tour event, and you look at what the Pro Tour has done.
Oh, yeah.
And what they've done for, I remember when the Disc Golf World Tour with UC Maresma, I have a sticker on one of my water bottles that has that old logo. And Disc Golf Pro Tour originally was kind of like I'm not sure what's going on here. Is this a legit thing? Is it not?
Right.
And now it is the official tour of the PDGA. I mean, this is the top of the top. But continue with that. I mean, with Bradley Williams and Paige Pierce is crazy.
Yeah, just absolutely amazing how both of those players have developed over the last 6 years as well. Totally different players. We'll kind of get into that a little bit as we dissect FPO and MPO, but I also find it amazing, and no one will ever forget the moment, the shot heard around the world, James Conrad throwing it in to push his world championship to a playoff and eventually win his first world championship. And honestly, something similar happened with Katrina Allen. She threw a big shot, that same corner.
Yep.
To push Paige to go for it. Paige goes OB, ends up winning her world championship. All this happened June 26th. It's a day to remember, guys.
It is
June
it's
26th.
A day in the history books many, many, many times over for the disc golf. Definitely, I mean, we were at IDGC for the Major of the Year Champions Cup. There needs to be like a June 26th like glowing sign or something like that. That needs to be like that needs to be disc golf day, or there needs to be something like that. Because I mean, first day of the Pro Tour. I mean, the shot, I mean, it's special. It's a special day. So be on the lookout for next June 26th. But yeah, absolutely incredible. Let's talk about an update on Ideo Sports during this as well. Talking with Craig, the founder, creator, designer, one-man show. Incredible dude, good buddy of mine, sent me a text today. I said, hey man, what's the greatest and most informational update you can give me? If you've been on the emails, you've been receiving stuff for a long time. He's been doing really solid on that. But from him today, just a couple minutes before this podcast is recording, he told me that the shoes are on the water in a boat and are expected to be hitting the port of Savannah, Georgia, July 21st. And then fulfillment is estimated to complete all 4,000 orders by the first week of August, second week of August. So we've been saying it for 9 episodes now, but closer than ever, having actual dates and stuff. Huge shout out to the team at Ideo Sports and everyone behind that. Very small team, being that it is literally just Craig getting after it. So 4,000 people, your shoes are coming soon. And the second pre-order is going to be coming in September. So if you're a part of that. So absolutely awesome to be able to have. And that's wraps it up here for Running It Back with Ideo Sports. Head over to ideosports.com to sign up for those emails to be able to have, and also to be able to record and get your piece of disc golf history.
Can't wait, dude. So pumped for these shoes.
All right, we're back. Sorry, my internet decided to go goodbye. So we're back. All right. Let's continue into the MPO recap. Some big storylines here. I mean, we talked about some highlights. We already talked about, Bradley winning his first Pro Tour event. I mean, he won, as Yuli said on coverage, he won the first one, and now he's won the last one. I mean, it's true. He's won the most recent one. So, I mean, you can't really say anyone else has done that. But what a way that he did it. I mean, just round after round, we'll go through some highlights per round. But just overall, he has always been a player known to be so smooth, known to be so specific on his lines. I mean, backhand dominant, just kind of classic Frisbee player. Mm-hmm. And he put it on display this week, dude.
I think there were few holes that truly tested him, and when he was tested, your boy aced. Not really, it was a throw in, but he
it felt like it on that hole.
He aced. He got an A on the test. Yeah. His putting, lights out. Fairway hits, lights out.
Yep.
Tee to green. I mean, every part of his play was super smooth. 0 OBs. I always have to mention it. Always have to mention the OB strokes.
0.
Didn't take a single one.
Wow. And I mean, I will say one thing down the stretch, he hasn't been in this position in the lead down the stretch in 6 years. So there was some putting woes at the very end, and it was kind of, you could see it. But then there was this switch on hole 17 where it was not a simple putt. It was on the raised basket down the stretch. He's got, at this time, 1 stroke ahead of Ricky. Yep. And there was a pace change. There was a, all right, I'm ready to freaking do this, not messing around, because he missed, 3 or 4 putts on that back nine that kind of, he definitely would have been at a lot more comfortable spot to sit in going into the last hole. But there was a pace change on that putt on 17, and it just was boom. I know what I need to do and get after it, and kind of have that winner's mentality instead of, hey, if I win, I win, but hey, I'm going to win because of what I'm doing. So it was freaking awesome to see him win and take down his first event and second Pro Tour event ever. Someone that's been a mainstay, and some of the newer players have kind of overshadowed him, but he pops up and is still so consistent. One of my favorite players to watch on tour. Just his style is at an all-time high.
Yeah, super smooth.
Exactly. And let's get into some other highlights here and some storylines as we continue. Marweed and Hamis, their putting, they're both known for their putting. They're known for other things, but both of them are phenomenal putters. They only missed how many putts, Zach, during the entire tournament?
Each of them missed a single Circle 1X putt.
What the heck? Why couldn't
That's insane.
Why couldn't they do it perfectly? I don't know. We'll let you know. But that's absurd. Through all the wind, those greens were on hills. You saw people laying up from inside Circle 1 on some of them. Like, good God.
Yeah, and I sometimes I see 96% Circle 1, and I'm like, okay, but how many Circle 1X putts did they have? Marweed had 30, so he hits 29 out of 30. Hamis hits 30 out of 31.
Yeah.
So it's not like they only had a small sample size. These guys were on it. They were consistent. Yeah. Super cool to see.
Yeah, incredible. And then another highlight, kind of storyline here. Over this year, we talk about this a lot, and just kind of tracking what's our sport. Who's winning these events? Is there this whole next generation? I feel like has been kind of the buzzwords of the 2022 season, but definitely last season as well, and just kind of post COVID as the sport just skyrocketed. This year and last year, this was happening in FPO. It's happening a little bit this year, but it kind of tailed off a bit. This year for MPO, over the 9 elite majors and events, so the 1 major we had and then 8 elite series events, we've had 7 different winners in MPO. The only repeats are Ricky and Simon, which Ricky we expected. Simon has been phenomenal. We'll get into how he played in this tournament as well. Just unexpected. But the fact that there's been 7 different men that have won, and then if you throw in match play and Silver Series, there's 11 different winners. Like, that's insane. That's stat coming from Ultiworld. But what are your thoughts on that and where our sport's headed? I think it just kind of cements that there's a new reign coming.
It's really interesting when you think about it, because this last year we've seen a lot of the youngsters pop up and really start ripping these courses up a little bit, showing their true form and the consistency that they're able to pull.
Yeah.
And Albert Tom getting a Silver Series win too, so we get some people coming from overseas, but at the same time we have these tried and true Frisbee throwers that are still hanging around doing what they do best, and it's not like they're gonna slow down either. Right. So it's not a total youngster takeover. Right. Some people think that that's the direction it's headed, and I don't necessarily think that. Because, the way this sport is played, you got to have the distance, and young arms typically get more, but we're going to continue to see better players throughout, ranked number 1, ranked through the top 50, through the top 100. You're going to have tons and tons of age groups, location variances. So I think we'll continue to see new winners, different places all over the place.
Yeah, I think we will. And I was just looking this up. You think about people that have won world championships. This year, Worlds is in Emporia. We've talked about that. It's in a couple months. It has been 10 years since Paul Macbeth won his first world title. He won his first world title in 2012, the year that I graduated high school. And you look at him and what he's done in the last 10 years. You put a time like that, and go back. Kyle Klein, some more we'll get into talking about here in a second. Him being runner-up at United States Championships, you got to realize the level that these guys are at. Guys like Macbeth, guys like Bradley Williams have been doing this for 10 years. And Macbeth and Ricky and some of these guys have been in it that long. But when we talk about this next generation and this new wave of players on the FPO and the MPO side, we got to realize that we are in the 2012 of this next generation.
Right.
And to look and see what they're going to accomplish in these next 10 years. And then, I mean, it's obviously continuing, and I think we're going to see it even more so because of the growth of our sport. Just PDJ members alone, I mean, at an all-time high, but you look at tournaments and locally, I mean, what our sport's done and what is being achieved on just local level, and then you see these new names popping up. I could not be more excited. I mean, us as a whole in the sport, the fact that you have guys that are now saying, my career is this. Because when Macbeth won the 2012 World Championships, that wasn't a career. Like, he was a young kid. I mean, you look at Schustrick back in the day, 3-time United States champion. He was just starting to start that wave of this is a career. And now you have kids that are on tour for the first time that have a van. I mean, it's amazing to see. So that stat, I love that. 7 out of 9 have different winners. So really cool. But let's get into some of the round highlights. Hot rounds. I believe was it 13 down was the hottest round for MPO the whole week?
Sure was.
Yeah, and that came from Kyle Klein and Garrett Gerthy. I mean, we've talked about Kyle Klein all year. He's kind of been in a low point, but really, making a name for himself and getting back into form. I mean, we got Idlewild coming up next, so he's got to, really be able to claim that title and defend it. But yeah, also Barsby. I mean, being able to see him on some coverage is always a good time. He hits Cage with a crazy Anheuser shot with a mid-range, like literally a half-inch low on hole 4 in round 1. It was just beautiful. And I mean, Barsby's another one of those guys similar to your Bradley Williams. That's just smooth style that you just kind of forget about them, and then you're like, oh wait, like they're still here, they're still doing it. And Barsby's a world champion. If you just started playing disc golf in the last couple of years, you may not know who Greg Barsby is. He's a world champion. Like, he's still here, ready to get after it. But that shot was insane. Beautiful left to right moving shot. Let's move through some other highlights here. Klein, Gerthy, Williams, and Robinson shot bogey free. Was there any other bogey free rounds during the rest of the rounds?
There were a couple that I found round 2, round 3. Let's see, round 2, Albert Tom.
Okay.
Went bogey free. We had Jeremy Coling go bogey free in round 2. Ian Burchett.
Yep.
With an eagle at the end of the round as well. Luke Taylor, another bogey free round 2. Casey White, bogey free round 2. John Willis. I think round 2 people started cleaning things up a little bit. There was way less orange on the scorecards in general in round 2, but round 3 I think even more people picked it up. Hammis, Gannon Burr, Ricky. We had Paul, Calvin, Chandler, Kramer.
People definitely figuring it out as time went on. And I mean, I will say, and I correct myself, Adam Hammis did shoot -13 final round as well.
That is correct.
Which jumped him 20 spots to be in the top 6 finishing spot. So incredible.
What a finish.
Yeah, amazing. And I mean, it started from the beginning here. Bradley Williams started, 100%. What is the stat here? 400%.
Oh, fairway hits.
Oh, fairway hits. Sorry, Zach's getting all freaky here in the doc. We're like with all these abbreviations, my brain is just not going. 100% fairway hits from Williams and Ezra Aderhold. So I mean, and then Williams 33% of the holes parked. So starting it off hot,
being able to just tap in for birdie 33% of the time in a tournament round. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, is there any more that you would ever ask for?
No, I mean, that's 6 holes that you literally can take a breath. And that's
don't putt.
Right. And it's from a timing of, hey, I threw my drive, and there's a solid, 10, 15 minutes sometimes on some holes where it's like, hey, I can take a breath for the amount of time. So that's huge for the mental. Take us into round 2.
Round 2 was another fun round. As we said, people started picking up the course a little bit better. Less errors generally on the fairways. I think we did have a pretty interesting but almost saddening statistic. At that time during round 2, Garrett Gerthy had this personal streak of bogey-free holes. This going back through Beaver State Fling. He had 75 tournament holes bogey-free. 75.
Insane.
And he finally conceded a bogey on hole 5 in the second round. unbelievable, though. The
Yeah.
consistency that we've seen out of Double G, I have never seen him this consistent. His putting has been lights out. He's been, driving like a monster per usual, but it's really cool to see him clean up his game
Yeah.
while still mashing as hard as he actually does.
Another name that's been around for a decade plus, and again, still there, still setting records. And I don't know if that's an actual record, but it feels like one. I'd be surprised there's no way to track that. Statmando, let us know. But yeah, that's amazing. And that was not only the only highlight. There was some crazy stuff going on round two. Calvin Heimberg throws in from 280 feet for eagle.
Unbelievable.
Like, just beautiful. And it's always awesome to see Calvin do these things because you really don't know what to expect. And it's kind of, it's not kind of, it's a total meme. And the dude freaked out. And even on live coverage, Simon throws in as well. We'll get to that in a second. But they were comparing Nate Dawson was literally saying, who had the better celebration. They were about the same distance, but who had the better celebration? That's really what takes it down. And they were replaying the reaction of how they did it. And Calvin turned around and just jumped into his buddies around him and stuff. So just cool to see the excitement and just like the love of our sport. Like they're competing against each other for thousands of dollars. Yeah. And there's still just that joy happening. So that was on hole 9. He gets the eagle. And then later in that round, Simon on hole 15 has a 310-foot throw in. And it, almost identical to the similar shaped hole, similar approach. And yeah, the highlights were unreal.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch that second round. Conrad also almost getting an ace early on in the round. He ends up wicking the chains. So you could hear it from where he was. Like, how maddening is that when you get that close, just inches away? But there was a pretty good race going on in the middle of round 2 as well. So Double G was holding strong as he had already gotten the lead in round 1, and James Conrad had started making a comeback. Bradley Williams started making a comeback, and everyone kind of tied themselves up going into the back 9 of round 2. And then all of a sudden there was this big switch where Double G misses a birdie putt, and then James double putts, which I just hate seeing for him because he throws those like missile putts, and if he doesn't hit anything, he really gets a tough comebacker. So
his putting was surprising to this week. This weekend was definitely, I think there was a stat like his circle 1 was worse than his circle 2 at one point. Which is shocking. Like you said, that's something he's struggling with, but it happens. It's when you're playing as much as these guys are, you get in a little bit of a funk, but he kept himself. He was lead card final day, and definitely kept himself in it.
Sometimes that could even just be which side of the fairway, or rather, which side of the green did you land on? You know, are you in the headwind or are you in the tailwind? And a lot of these guys were, and the FPO as well, were trying to play that smart, but sometimes you just can't match that, and then you're thrown in a headwind.
Yeah, speaking of not matching it, Albert Tom scrambles phenomenally, 100% scramble rate, and
6
shooting
scrambles.
bogey free. Yeah, it's not just, I had one scramble, here's a great stat. 6 scrambles.
6 scrambles.
And on this course, when you're scrambling, you're in that tall grass, you're against the river, there's some kind of weird spots. And when you have a forehand like he does, and really a player that has all the tricks, winning a Silver Series this year, he shoots bogey free and jumps 24 spots on leaderboard.
Gosh.
And it's just amazing. If you would have told me that Albert Tom was going to be the player that was going to honestly be putting, Simon is European, yes, but when you think of a player that I didn't really expect, when all the big names, all the hype we've had this season, that Albert Tom was going to be the one that's really finding his own finally on the tour. I wouldn't have bet on him, but he's really been doing that. Yeah,
consistency out of him, and like you said, he's a threat either way, forehand, backhand,
always.
All of it.
Yeah, absolute beast. A 3-time Estonian champion. So incredible. Let's jump into the final round, where in our dock we have Bradley and Williams throwing in on hole 5, one of the hardest holes on the course, if not the hardest hole. You can check me on that. I was definitely in the top couple, but he throws in and literally was like, was that me? Does that noise? Is that my disc? And it was a turnover with a fairway driver, blind. Around the corner, it could not have been. And we talked about Bradley already. Obviously we're going to continue, but his touch and the speed in which he can have the disc land, his goal, and he said this in interviews and stuff, and a lot of players and commentators will mention this, his goal is to match the angle to the ground. He's not trying to play a lot of skips. He's trying to throw flat shots when the ground is flat, angled when it's angled, trying to limit that ground play. And this shot coming in was the speed of like a 15-foot putt. And it was over, 250 something feet? Yeah. And it was amazing. And it was blind. And on that hole, on the final day, I was watching live coverage. You and I were texting and just going, what?
It was huge.
Oh, it was insane.
It was huge. It was the perfect shot.
Oh, yeah.
He got it straight down the fairway. It flexed out, and it actually started to fade at the very end. And it was center chains. No chance it was going anywhere but against that pole and in the basket.
Yeah. Incredible. Which, with the Prodigy baskets, it can be very mean to some people's putts. They kind of have to adjust a little bit. They really like a hard putt at the center, and that was exactly what that was, even though it was from 250 feet with the fairway driver. But only 5 birdies on the day, and one of those being from 250 feet.
Unreal.
So, phenomenal.
Yeah, that hole 5, played 0.7 strokes above par.
Dang.
For round 3.
Whew.
Yeah, dirty.
Yeah, and so to do that, you're picking up strokes on everyone.
Yeah, 41% of the field bogeyed.
There you go. Phenomenal. And that's the kind of stuff we talked about towards the end of his round as we continue here. There were some mishaps, some strokes he left out there, but picking up one like that, it really goes to show that every hole does matter. But when you can kind of play with the field or get above it at certain points, it all will definitely matter in the end. But there was big moves going on the entire time. Talking about, Simon, his putting has really been what's kept him in the game. But then on hole 10, he 3-putts, and it was just, that's a hard spot to putt. It's scary. You can't put a ton behind it. It's one of those holes that was difficult in different ways each day.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pinpoint accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to give yourself a good putt is just honestly lucky. It seems like, if you're not running a death putt or coming from down on the bottom of the hill, the bottom of the wall, like Missy Gannon had to do. And I think actually Bradley Williams, or maybe it was Kyle Klein, had to do that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we see him fall back, and actually Bradley struggled on hole 10 as well. And so that kind of kept them neck and neck. But at the same time, one hole ahead of them on hole 11, Ricky putting it in from deep in circle 2.
Insane.
First time I had gotten to see Raptor legs in a hot minute. Absolutely disgusting putt. And then next hole, he does it again deep in circle 2. And this is one of my favorite stats. I put it in put it in letters. FAK. From a knee. This is the stat that we need.
Yes.
The from a knee putts or from a knee drives. He puts in a circle 2 putt from a knee. Absolutely dirty. It was uphill.
Yep.
I don't know how the man does it. I swear he has telekinesis and he's just telling his discs where to go.
Maybe if that's what he's doing, he definitely needs to tell someone, because that, or don't. I don't know.
You can't.
Is there any way to prove that? It's going to be, what was that old movie, Matilda? Where it's moving stuff with your mind. Gosh,
yes.
Great movie. Seeing this written out of the facts, the FAQ, F-A-K, the FAQ stat. It's just, that's going to be a fun one. I'm for it. I would love to see just FAQ in the thing.
You have to say it FAQ. All right, you can't squirrel the A.
No, but hey, there's accents out there. This is an international sport. But the FAK, the from a knee, we're pushing for it. UDisc, where's it at? We'll tag you for sure. So Ricky goes on to make 5 putts in a row for birdie on the back 9.
Yeah, unbelievable.
At this point, his birdie putt, or he's hit the basket on 16 out of 16 holes. The man was pushing from chase card, and he had the bucket hat on. Bucket hat Rick is another level on that final day, but he tries to go for he definitely just tried to go for too much on hole 18. He knew he had to put everything he had behind it, flipped his disc over, and puts himself in weird. The fact that he was not out of bounds is amazing.
Yeah,
but it almost. He went out of bounds either way, but he slips, has really weird footing in that long grass, and then finds OB into the pond again, just pushing with everything he had. Managed to scramble for par, but really kind of signs his fate and lets Bradley be able to play safe and take it home with just a par on the final hole.
You know, props to Rick for going for it. I think my one advice to Ricky is get yourself a pair of Idios because I highly doubt you'd ever slip.
Yeah, I was about to say, where's this
syncrasies.
going? What advice do you have for the 2-time world champion, number 1/2 player in the world? Like, where do we have to stand on this? But on that, head over to idiosports.com or click the link in the show notes. There you go. But I mean, it really was unfortunate to watch. And it's funny because I don't think they got it on live coverage. So we kind of had to like go back and wait over here on Gatekeeper Media to be able to see that happen. But yeah, he slips, throws OB, and it just kind of smooth sailing for Bradley to take down his second Disc Golf Pro Tour win. Yeah, I really would have loved to see a playoff. To be able to see that happen. I mean, you always want to see it.
I wanted it.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
But I think to see Ricky, I mean, he dropped out of Beaver State Fling and Portland Open, had a Lyme flare up and stuff. So, I mean, I doubt he's at 100%, but we've said it before on this podcast. Ricky, 60% is better than, I mean, an insane
most.
amount.
Yeah.
I mean, most. What was it? I think it was, he had like something with his knee when he had hurt his knee and stuff. And what did we said? Like one-legged Rick is better than like 89 other players or something. It was something like that. It was something funny.
It was
But
unbelievable.
It's true. But I mean, you put a bucket hat on him, you put him in the pressure situation, and he's going to deliver. And I mean, by one stroke it was, I believe, for the total.
Wow.
What was it? One stroke or two?
Two strokes.
Two strokes. Yeah, there you go. I'm going to refresh. Yeah. 2 strokes, shooting 11 down on the final day. Bogey free, was really pushing. But let's go down the leaderboard a little bit more here. Kyle Klein, seeing him in a top spot, tying for third with Simon Lizotte. Those two names next to each other, it feels like almost like father and son. Like, not actually, but when you think of a player that Kyle's compared to more than anyone else, it's your Simons and your Eagles. Yes, he's with Discmania, but his play style, what he does, the young age, the long distance, and his game is maturing more and more every week. And especially, I mean, really since Champions Cup, Champions Cup, he had a good round or two, but he's had mishaps. But this was 3 solid rounds that put him within 3 of the lead. And heading to Idlewild next weekend, I mean, we'll get to picks in the end, but you can't count him out if he's really going to start finding that consistency at this point in the season.
Couldn't agree more, man. And having him also putting as well as he did this tournament, gaining 7.6 strokes putting alone, that's huge because I feel like, I mean, he's pretty consistent off the tee. He finds some left, right every now and then, but usually where I see him fall out of the leaderboard is circle 1 putts.
Right.
And he's kind of iffy around circle 1, circle 2. He's actually got an interesting putting style. Looks kind of like he's like doing the worm a little bit, but he's
it's a lot of arms, not a lot of legs.
Yeah, he gets his hand up there, but he's firing those in, and just great to see him. Like
similar to Simon. I mean, if you see, I was able to play a practice round with Kyle at USDGC last year, and it's an interesting putt to like see, and I like talking to him about it too. Like it is. That's kind of the motion is really the speed comes from just opening the hand, as it's a lot of arm motion, but it's this kind of like swinging thing. But when it works, it works. So if he can find that consistency, I mean, he's a contender at every tournament. Mm-hmm. And at different styles too. You look at Idlewild next week, we'll get to that at the end, a very wooded course that he won at last year. So if he can get it going and get that putt confident, that's obviously what's holding him back. But as we wrap up here at MPO, some players that quietly did some phenomenal things. We've already mentioned Adam Hammis getting it together, 13 down on the final day. Really just kind of been down. I mean, was in almost last place at a tournament earlier this year, and just in a funk, but finds himself tied for 6th. Gannon Burr, not able to get all 3 rounds perfect, but that final one, jumping 12 spots to be in 6th place. Another name I want to mention, Noah Five-Ash. Being on Chase Card, a name that dude freaking bombs a disc.
Yeah, he does.
From North Carolina. Another one of those players that a lot of people don't know the name, but he's coming. And another player that qualified for the United States Championships last year at this tournament, first person I ever interviewed with Parked Podcast at the United States Championships is a man by the name of Garrett Everson. He is from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. If you go way back on Instagram, Parked Podcast, he was the first person that Hayden and I ever interviewed. And he had a tied for 13th, which I believe got him a United States spot. Let me click the little thing. And yes, that did get him a spot. So, I mean...
Wow. Congrats.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Incredible. So he finds a spot here at the Preserve once again. And I believe he's a college student from South Dakota. So awesome. Amazing to see that.
Yeah. Also, just looking at the stats overall, he's second place in overall strokes gained putting.
Yeah. Young kid.
What in the world? That's
Gotta
awesome.
wonder if he's going to, maybe go full-time touring. I don't know what his tour looks like off the top of my head. The last person I want to mention here, Gavin Rathbun. He has played a couple of tournaments here and there, but, I mean, having the shoulder surgery before he had even signed, right as he signed with Dynamic Discs, finds himself in a tie for 16th. So good to see him, healthy, not the cleanest of rounds, had some bogeys, but, I mean, -8 on the final day, jumps him 15 spots, and a player that was really, this time last year, was starting to make some big moves, and excited to be able to see him on the way to being healthy and pushing into the top 20. So, yeah, Preserve on the MPO side, what a ride. But let's take it to the FPO side. Man, big highlight. We'll talk about this at the end. Jomez with the Women's Championship, United States Women's Disc Golf Championships, had the most freaking BA trailer that we've seen from disc golf in a long time. Like, it was so sick. If you haven't seen it, go over. They did it a couple times at the beginning of coverage. But just, I don't know if it was an original song, but it felt like it. Talking about like just the cuts, everything, it was sick. So just so much hype for FPO, and in a year where FPO is at an all-time high, the highest ranked players in the world are here. So excited for that. We'll talk about that as we wrap up. But let's chat about some storylines, Zach. Tell me about Evelina.
Evelina finally coming back strong. I think this course played well into her strengths. We were talking about all the different shot shapes that you have to have in this specific location, and she was able to really showcase all those different things that she's got going for her. She was using her forehand, using her big power backhand to her advantage, and honestly, she was second place strokes gained from the tee to the green, only behind the winner, Paige Pierce. So she came out really flexing those muscles off the tee pad. Sad thing for her is that her putting was just not clicking. It's still kind of wavery.
Right. It's been getting better. I will say it definitely is better. But it's so surprising as you think about, her and Henna, being such good friends. Henna is usually the one that struggles with the putt. But so far this year, it's been Evelina. So she's on the come up, which is nice. But to be able to see her back in the mix felt great.
Absolutely. Another good player we wanted to shout out from this weekend, Madison Walker. Not always climbing up in the ranks, but leading the tournament in strokes gained on the putting green, getting over 7 strokes on the entire field in the putting greens. That's huge. Gotta love someone who just comes out and cashes those big putts. Yeah. If anyone watches the highlights that get posted, you'll see a couple of her putts in there.
Yeah, and Madison also part of Two Hot Geese with Erica Stinchcomb over at GK Pro. Yeah, they're great. So if you haven't head over there, they're GK Pro having all the FPO coverage. They've been killing it. Some awesome commentary from that duo. So to be able to do commentary and lead the field in putting, that's freaking awesome.
Huge.
But yeah, let's get into our winner here, Paige Pierce. After a super hot start from Paige, no one could really catch up, it felt like. She led the entire time. First in shots gained, tee to green at 21.
Absolutely smashing these fairways to pieces, man. She didn't always hit the fairways, but she was 70% circle 2 in regulation. I'm like, if you're gonna be giving yourself, actually it may be more than that on the tournament, it's more like 80. If you're gonna give yourself 80% looks from circle 2 and you're a world champion putter, like you're gonna be able to score big. So cool to see her out there doing what she's doing. you know, we already said it's hard to catch up, but there were a lot of players that were really taking big strides throughout the entire tournament. Missy Gannon was there the whole way. She didn't score as much as Paige did, but Missy was really able to get back to where she was performing, where I think last year, getting off the tee really well, cashing some big putts, using that step putt that she has to her advantage in the open fairways and the open greens. Again, another highlight reel that you're going to see a lot of Missy Gannon out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see her back at the form we expected, and still some things to get better at. She's not the furthest thrower, but it's where she picks up strokes is on the putting green. And I mean, she won back-to-back at the last two tournaments of the year at Throw Pink and then winning, the Pro Tour Championships. I mean, she's a player that we expected so much from, and it's taken a little bit of time to warm up into it. And there's a lot of pressure. I mean, when you finish that, you go into an off season, you have such high hopes, and maybe she hasn't reached that yet, but this is a tournament. And this time in the year really is where it starts counting, because every single week, these Pro Tour points are going to matter every single time. And when you start putting yourself in position, start being in a chance for a win, or at least battling in that top 5 down the stretch like she was, I mean, you build that muscle memory, you kind of get those nerves out of the way before we hit the World Championships, before we hit Throw Pink. I mean, we have United States Women's this next week. I mean, this is definitely the time in your season, this kind of almost halfway mark, to start getting after it. But let's break down some of these rounds, and we'll come back to Paige Pierce and kind of, she said some incredible things at the end of her win. But let's talk about round 1. Like you said, Paige, I mean, it was extreme fire emoji. 8 out of 9 in the first 9 holes birdieing.
Yeah, unbelievable.
I mean, everything went right. The smoothie was the perfect consistency that morning, and just got after it. 8 out of 9. Good.
Yeah, to start off 5 in a row. I've only accomplished that once in a tournament, and it was my first 1,000 rated round. Felt insane.
Yeah,
it's like
it
I could do
real.
anything. No, it felt like this is a dream, or it's like I'm gonna score perfect. It's gonna be a perfect round. Mm-hmm. And she was pretty darn close to it.
Yeah, picks up the double on hole 10, so that was unfortunate, but still after that stayed bogey free after that one mishap. But I mean, shoots 10 down, and I believe, was that the hottest round of there?
It was,
yeah, 10 down there. So, I mean, good stuff. And like I said, Missy Gannon, from the beginning, getting it done on the putting green from 100% C1X. Only 7 times she put herself in position, but still the stats there of 100%. Definitely, this was the tees were some of the same, some were different, but we had 14 players that were hitting fairways 80% plus in round 1.
Pretty solid. I mean,
yeah,
the wind definitely had a say in that, but a lot of people were able to keep themselves on the fairway. In that list, there weren't a ton of OBs. Only a few people had more than 1 or 2 throughout the tournament. But 14 out of 50. So 28% sticking it on the fairways 80% of the time.
Yep. That was quick math. I'm really impressed. That was nice. But if you need math tricks, let Zach, he'll reach out to him on socials. He'll hit you up. But like we said, Madison Walker, 12 for 12, C1X putting,
huge.
Starting it off. I mean, she stayed at the top in the putting for the entire time. And like we've said, Paige shooting that -10, it just made it difficult for anyone to come back. She went into the second round with 3-stroke lead?
Yep.
I mean, and over names that have been in the mix, which a name I want to talk about a lot here, Ella Hansen. Going into round 2, she gets 7 birdies in a row. Pushing hard. We talked about someone's really got to catch Paige when she's in this mode, when she's dialed in. Ella is a player that has come on. She was Rookie of the Year last year. We've talked about her a lot this year so far. Been on that podium a couple of times, and my goodness, such a fun player to watch, and just in ways that other players aren't. I mean, her background is in ultimate, and so has that Frisbee style, but really has the distance and has had it for a while, but is finally getting those pieces to connect. And she was in the hunt the entire time. Talk about some more highlights here from round 2.
Yeah, round two, Missy hit 100% of her fairways. Amazing to see. She also cashed in 2 huge 50-foot birdie putts. That circle 2 putting for Missy was really on point. Love seeing that happening for her. We had more players actually on the fairways in round 2, from 14 players in round 1 up to 22 players in round 2, 80% on the fairway or more. So kind of nice to see the women. I think kind of the same route we were going with the guys, that they maybe picked it up a little bit, started clicking. Although it was really interesting because the wind, like we said earlier, was the total opposite.
Yep.
In round 2. So I wonder if it was just better tailwind holes versus headwind holes. Not 100% on how that ended up playing out. But the hot round for round 2 ended up going to one Holland Handley.
Yep.
Getting 9 down, which is huge because she even had she did have 1 bogey on that round.
Hole 12.
Yeah, which that's a really tough one. Lots of bogeys picked up there in the FPO side of things. But shout out to her for the hot round.
Yeah,
round
90% putting there.
Yeah.
In round 2, I mean, pushing her up some spots, and that's a player that like I want to talk about for a second because her name kind of popped up a couple tournaments ago. Dynamic disc sponsor player, newer on tour, and she is a player that is up and coming. And my goodness, it's been a while. I mean, when you think about forehand dominant players in the FPO side, your mind immediately goes to Sarah Hokum and Evelina. But I mean, Sarah obviously dominant. I mean, that's all she throws for the most part. But Holland has some distance on a forehand, going for forehands on island holes. Leaning on it, not as her mainstay. She has a great backhand as well, but that's really what kept her in it. We talked about at the beginning of this, we were talking about the course, is there were some advantages that were found if you have a forehand, and Holland definitely put that into play, especially in round 2.
Yeah, she wasn't able to keep up the hot round in round 3. She actually struggled a little bit right off the bat. Didn't get her first birdie until hole 9 in that 3rd round. I don't know if it could have been the pressure of being on the lead card and being so close to being with Paige and Missy and Ella and everyone else. But yeah, she just couldn't put it together. She was hitting her fairways still, but it looked like her circle 1, circle 2 putts just didn't cash in for her. So a little tough to keep it
until the very end. She had a huge freaking putt on hole 18 with the gallery going on. I believe it definitely was outside circle 2. Let's see what they gave it as. Yeah, at circle 2's edge, 60. Yeah. It looked longer than that on camera. Did. And it was so pure. Nose up, laser beam, like Eric McCabe style, where it's just like there's no up or down motion. And it was a phenomenal putt. That
was huge to see.
And a player we've said she's up and coming, she's number 13 in the world at the time of this recording. I mean,
wow,
it's amazing to see players going on there. But as we wrap this up with the FPO in the round 3, I mean, Katrina had the hot round of -6. We had a near ace from Juliana Korver hitting the band. I mean, there was just highlights so much throughout this tournament. Putting, players that we've talked about Holland already. Missy Gannon, you just kind of expect phenomenal putting. Valerie Mendojano, a player that was, kind of struggled a little bit, wasn't in the mix as much as we kind of expect her to be, but her putting definitely kept her in it and limited a lot of that damage.
She's making a big name for herself just by putting well.
Yep, no doubt. But yeah, let's get into the final leaderboard here. Paige taking it down, Missy second place here, but I want to talk about Paige. I watched the end of the FPO coverage here, watched it live and also just recapping it during the GK Pro, but Paige had some awesome things to say about what's going on in FPO. Brian asked her, what does it feel like to be, at this property, on this stage, all this stuff. And she just kind of went off in the best way about hyping up other players. And she was like, if you saw this happening, it was insane. She was like, I can't do the things that these up and coming players are doing. And she mentioned Ella and Holland for these rollers they were throwing, 500-foot rollers.
Wow.
And this is a quote from Paige. She was like, I'm I'm a one-dimensional player when it comes to a lot of things. I don't have that. I throw the Anheisers and I'm sticking to that because it works. But she was like, she literally was saying, I'm going to get passed up. It's going to happen. And it wasn't in a negative way. It wasn't in I got to push harder. It was in the most positive and excitement for the road that she has paved, that Paige has literally set up for so many women to know and like see that it's possible to be able to be a multi-time world champion. And the fact that she has the outlook she does of positivity and of excitement, and straight up told people, like literally told people on coverage to star Holland Hanley's name, because she was like, this girl is the next big thing. Like, put a star next to her name on UDisc. And I don't know if there's any way to track that, but that's just so cool. Like a newer player, I mean, making a name for herself this year, and like having someone she looked up to, someone that she's probably set her career up in as like, I want to be like Paige. And there's so many women that have done that, but to have the number one player in the world, highest rated player, I mean, above Paige, I mean, Chris and her kind of go back and forth, but Paige Pierce being able to encourage, as I smack my microphone, encourage other people in the FPO division in the way that she did was so heartwarming and so wholesome, and it was amazing. I loved it.
You see that a lot out of the FPO side of things, and everything like Throw Pink, and I mean more and more organizations are gearing up to just get women on the course, because we see how much of a great sport it is, the camaraderie, the community behind it, and not everyone has that. So I love it. I think it's important to hear that from the pros, because without that, it's hard to feel accepted. It's hard to feel open to the idea. So Paige is doing a great job representing the sport and where things are headed. Also, here's another interesting I noticed about Paige.
Let's talk about this.
Yeah. So the whole tournament, Paige had headphones in.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever seen Paige playing in headphones.
Yeah, and she always has her hair up or in a hat or something like that, so you definitely would notice it.
Yeah.
So it was, I mean, maybe it's something new. It's staying in the zone. I noticed it as well, and I mean, sometimes maybe she's not even listening to anything at all. Maybe it's just like blocking out stuff. I don't know. I mean, it's something that can be a positivity. I know Deanne Carey usually wears headphones all the time. I asked her about it last year when at Throw Pink, and she said she literally is just like hyping herself up. If she doesn't have that happening, she'll get in her head. So it's a distraction. Huh. But obviously, I mean, it wasn't I won the tournament by 10 strokes difference, but it definitely was something noticeable.
Yeah, because in the last couple of tournaments, she seemed a little off, up and down, or maybe just not as zoned in, making some mistakes that are just kind of unusual for her.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see if she goes into the next tourney repping the headphones again. I'd be curious. I'd be curious to know. I also just want to know, what is she listening to?
Yeah. Paige, if you're listening to this, tell us what you're listening to. Let us know. Paige Pierce, let us know in the comments below. What are you listening to? It was awesome to be able to see, like, making small decisions that obviously made big impacts for her to take it down. But let's run down the leaderboard a little bit here. Player that we've seen a lot jump into the top 10, Juliana Korver, another top 10 finish. A multi-time world champion, and being able to still have what it takes and stay in the mix there. We already talked about Evelina. It was interesting to see some of the names, and it's in the FPO field that certain courses really do lean towards certain players. And this one just felt like it was a mix-up. It was a toss-up. It wasn't too wooded. It wasn't too open, but it really kind of let this even playing field come through. But Jennifer Allen, known for her distance, but usually, maybe not the best putting. She had phenomenal putting this week. I mean, 80% in round 3. I mean, got her in a top 7 spot. Rebecca Cox as well. Kind of can be in the mix sometimes, but can have some inconsistencies. She was also able to do it over 80% putting in C1X the final round. So I mean, it's another name that from Throw Pink that was kind of made her namesake and is on tour. Macy Villa Diaz, finding herself top 15. A player that has a serious forehand, similar play style in my opinion to Evelina. Finding that excitement, finding that consistency is great to see. So. I mean, let's talk about as we wrap up and continue into it. Man, United States Women's Championship is this weekend. Time of this recording it starts in 2 days. What are your thoughts about this tournament? You know, having a women's only championship, and you know what that means for the division and just the excitement behind this tournament.
I think it's a must-have.
Yeah.
I think we absolutely have to have a women's only championship because, you know, not to exclude men, you know, that's not what the whole idea is all about. It's let's get the women and just be here for them.
Yeah.
Let's get all the spectators, all the media, all the hype, all the videos. Everything is about the ladies and what they're able to accomplish. And honestly, what great competition they put on when they're just going head to head. Like, I know you said as you were watching the final 9, just a fun round to watch.
So much fun. And I love that this is this course is specifically designed for the FPO. It's not like here's a secondary tee pad, you know, here's this kind of thing. And we talked about it with the European players is a lot of times they play the same as the men. Just says, hey, here it is. The scores may be higher, but it's the same thing. But this is a course, I believe it's 2 courses. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's 2 courses that they'll be playing. And they're not the longest of courses. In the 6,000-ish foot mark is what Paige had said about it. So it's definitely cool to see courses designed for that. It's going to be in Madison, Wisconsin. And this is really cool. So this, you know, in most tournaments you have your pro tour and you have like some your normal divisions of advanced, you know, rec, all this stuff. For this event, there's 92 FPO players, which is an extreme amount of number. We had what, 51, 52 at the preserve?
51,
so almost huge, double in the women's championship. But over the entire tournament, 323 players are going to be here. 323 women at the United States Championship battling, whether you're in advanced or rec or intermediate, to say, I will be a United States women's champion. That's
huge.
Amazing. That is phenomenal for the sport, and it's so exciting. But something I want to talk about here is Kristen Tatar. Not when you think of United States champion, you really can't not think of Kristen Tatar being in the mix. And she was supposed to be here for the preserve as well, but put out a post on social media talking about competing at Yarva, you know, dream course, all this and everything. And she, at the end of it, she said, and I'll quote this from her Instagram post 6 days ago, all this is overshadowed when I found out that Silver, which is her significant other, has tested positive for COVID-19. Even though my test was negative, I thought it was best if I cancel the trip to the United States. So you won't be seeing me at the preserve. And to be honest, right now, I just live one day at a time. Not making any plans for the near future when it comes to travel, and I will be monitoring my health and testing every day. Take care, everyone. Hope to see everyone on the course shortly. So it's a bummer. I mean,
sad. You got to respect that, though.
For sure. I mean, it's out of her control, but especially when it's in your household and traveling, it's impossible.
She's playing it safe, and
for sure.
Like I said, you respect that because a lot of people would probably say, "Oh, I tested negative.
And they have time to go.
Here I go."
Right.
Not really knowing what's going on.
And with all the precautions and everything that is still going on, I mean, you think of 2020 itself. I mean, there were no tournaments going on in Europe. Traveling at all was impossible. People were getting stuck in other countries. I think there was some players getting stuck in Croatia or something, I believe.
Wow.
Just where it's like, hey, this was the checkpoint, so to speak, and not really risking it. But it's upsetting, too, for the FPO field because, I mean, I believe she's number 1, or if not number 2 in the world. She's number 1 in the world right now. Paige being number 2. I mean, not having the number 1 player in the world at a tournament like this, it sucks. I mean, there's no other way to say it.
I agree. It's kind of like you want to put an asterisk next to it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like Ricky wasn't at the last 2 tournaments. I mean, it happens.
Right.
Look at Eagle. Eagle hasn't been around for quite some time with injuries. So it's definitely unfortunate, but I think a champion's a champion. At the end of this week, it's not going to go, oh, but if Kristen was here, no, she's not there. It's going to suck, but at the same time, it gives other players the opportunity to shine, which is exciting. And speaking of giving opportunities to shine, Jomez is going to be taking over the FPO lead card, and Kona and Paige are going to be doing practice rounds, going to be doing commentary, going to be doing all kinds of stuff, which is going to be awesome to see just 2 of the top women and biggest names in the women's field with Kona and Paige. It's going to be so fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. I'll definitely be tuning in as much as I can live. While, of course, blowing up stuff and eating way too much. But what a better way to celebrate than just ladies slinging discs?
Why not? Let's talk about, as we wrap up this thing, the next tournament, next Disc Golf Pro Tour event is the LWS Open at Idlewild. It's going to be July 8th through 10th, so we got the week off for the Women's Championship. It's going to be in Burlington, Kentucky. I don't know why I always think this is in like Illinois or Indiana, but it's in Kentucky. Maybe it's because it's Idlewild.
Yeah.
Idlewild. But it's just a fun word to say, Idlewild. But a tournament that Kyle Klein won last year, his first Pro Tour event, winning. And no, it was not his first. He won Maple Hill, didn't he? No, I do not know actually.
I thought Idlewild was his first.
Idlewild was his first one. He showed up at the leaderboard at Maple Hill. That's what it was. Yeah. Sorry for the completely wrong thing. But Kyle Klein taking it down last year, coming off of this tournament, he's got some momentum behind him.
Some serious momentum.
I mean, what are your thoughts going into this? I mean, this incredibly challenging course.
Yeah, I think, a lot of it comes into, can you execute? Mm-hmm. He was performing very well out here. I'm going to say that you can make less mistakes at Idlewild than you can out at Black Bear.
Oh, for sure.
Those dog legs aren't very friendly if you're not in the perfect spot. I mean, it's all about landing zones.
I'd say Idlewild is one of the least friendly courses we have.
Yeah.
Like, it's brutal. I mean, some stats here from Disc Golf Pro Tour about this tournament. 18 holes, of course, par 67. Huge amount of par fives. 1,000-foot par fives to a tight 280-foot holes. Long straight bombs requiring landing zone accuracy to dog legs, like you said, shot shaping. I mean, it is a course that really has it all. The elevation, my favorite thing about this is the elevation, and that's like blind going down into these really shaded areas, so there's not vision of rollers going into stuff. I mean, it's a course that is just insane. I had a friend that has his in-laws live around the area. He went and played it. He's like a 950 rated player, maybe a little bit less, and he was like, "That's the hardest course I've ever played in my life."
Wow.
And so when you think about it that way, and then you have pros going there, I mean, I love this tournament. I'm excited for it. So we'll see if Kyle Klein can defend it. What are you thinking? Who are your top 3 picks?
Top 3. All right. Gosh, this might be crazy. Paul is the first person that comes into my mind.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Paul's up there. Let's be quick. We're gonna do Paul. We're gonna do. Gosh, I'm gonna say Adam Hammis, and then I'm gonna say. Oh man, I'm putting Ricky in there.
Okay.
I'm putting Ricky in there.
Last year, Kyle won it. I believe it was in a playoff with Marweed. They both shot 25 under. I don't remember specifically. But Kyle won it. Andrew Marweed, Drew Gibson was third. Kevin Jones is up there. Wow. And Calvin. Huge amount of ties for thirds. But I want to put a name in here that I've been excited to see. Had a phenomenal Champions Cup. Corey Ellis. I think Corey Ellis, this is a place that suits his game. You get on this kind of East Coast swing, he starts to come out of the woodwork. And I think Marweed as well. His putt was phenomenal. He's getting used to his bag more. So that's going to be my 2 picks. And then I think we're going to see Paul. I think him being just inside the top 10 at the Preserve, you got to expect that he's ready to just go on a tear.
Yeah, he needs to tear something up.
He's got to tear something up.
Dude, the Bear's been lazy.
Uh-huh. That's true. The Bears, the beast. The beast.
Top 10, dude. That's
and
lazy.
I think we'll see what happens at United States Women's, and what the momentum looks like. But I think Missy Gannon has got to be up there. She placed second at this event last year in Idlewild. And the scores were very, very, very close. I mean, to even par for the women last year. I mean, winning was -1. So, I mean, this course is playing brutal. We had players that in the top 10 that were +12. So, I mean, this is just a brutal course. In the men's division, I mean, we were in the -20s. But still, like, this is a course that challenges your game in so many different ways. So we'll see what happens at Women's Championships heading into Idlewild. But overall, I'm super excited. This is some of my favorite disc golf courses of the year. We get to this East Coast. I mean, that's where we're from. We're excited about it.
We're partial.
we're partial to this side of the world, or the United States. I'm
Hey,
partial
but it's the world. United States
world.
is the world.
It's the best country. But no, I mean, I'm partial, and I'm so excited for the European swing that we have, and can't wait to cover all that. But that about wraps it up here for episode 9 of the Preserve Championship here at Gatekeeper Media is in the mix. You got any last things as we head into this off week?
I want to see Valerie Mandujano take down US.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about who's our picks. You want to see Valerie?
I want to see Valerie take it down. I think you were spot on with Missy. I think Valerie's going to be up there, and honestly, Juliana Korver.
Oh heck yeah, why not?
I think she's going to be up there at least making lead card. Because like you said, consistency, man. This is not an easy course. The scores are not super low, and she's one of those players that plays consistent.
Yep, I think we're going to see Evelina podium finish. I think this is a time and place where she's got to make her namesake, and the excitement, the hype of her coming over and being here for the long haul. I mean, one, without Kristen here, I want to see a European player in the top spots. But looking at if she can just get around the putting green and make it happen, if she can make half the putts that she's missing, like not even correct them all, she would be on the podium if not winning these events. I mean, she is so close. So I think Evelina is going to have a podium finish.
Love it. That's a hot take.
It's a hot take. I'm excited for it. But yeah, looking forward to that event. Definitely catch the action over on DGN Jomez for the United States Women's Championship. But yeah, episode 9 here. That is a wrap for us here at Gatekeeper Media is in the mix with Park Podcast. We'll see you over on socials. Take down the show notes to be able to get your pair of Idio Sports shoes. And yeah, we'll see you guys soon.
Peace, love, and disc golf.
Peace, love, and disc golf. We knew it was coming.
Later, everybody.